Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are joined by Mr. Ketan Kapoor, who is the DEI expert, subject matter expert and versatile activist, community mobilizer, and a strategist focusing on advocacy, partnership, campaign, and communication in the field of inclusion. He himself falls under the category of 100% disability. Mr. Ketan Kapoor wears multiple hats. And first, before his intro, I'd like to welcome him to our another episode of HR Voices. Welcome, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you.
So, a little bit about Mr. Ketan Kapoor, that he is a serial entrepreneur and has a stake in 5 organizations. He is on advisory board of PNI Pune Deccan Chapter, CXO Club, Skill Council for Person with Disability IP, and supporter for all over India. He's a TEDx speaker. He has won national level awards for universal design. He was associated as a D&I consultant with Siemens and associate director D&I programs consultant with Rangam Incorporation. Currently, he's working with Persistent Systems as a subject matter expert for DEIB, and his current global ranking in DEIB space is 5th as a subject matter expert. Welcome again, Mr. Ketan.
Thank you, Talis, for having me.
So, Mr. Ketan, just to start the conversation, for the larger audience, we would like to understand when we talk about people with disabilities, and you said it's generally defined as PWDs, as we say. So I would like you to just give a holistic approach that people can understand our conversation better. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Talis, and I'll be happy if you address me as Ketan. So on a holistic view, let me put it in very simple words. PWD, we normally understand person with disability. Here the W is not capital, like Public Works for Department. There's a small catch in when you write. Whereas in a generic, correct fashion of speaking in English literature, it should be specially able people or people with different abilities. That would be the most right way of addressing anybody, because everybody could not have the similar kind of ability. So that's how I will like to say, give you that answer.
It was wonderful speaking to you yesterday when we were deliberating on a number of things. So we spoke about the biases and the cognitive approach that needs to be adopted. So beginning with our first questions, I would like to share with you that in the name of inclusivity today, people with diverse segment feel apprehensive of accepting who they are and in fear of not being accepted amongst their peers at work. So that is one thing. And what part of employee education and training initiatives play in facilitating the inclusion of workers from these groups?
Right. And I agree with you. Even yesterday when I was conversating with you, I had my own takeaways when I was learning few things from you. And thanks for your question. And answering you in this question, when you were ending your question, you mentioned something called groups. Yeah. So when we say the word groups, we unknowingly label it. We humans have an ability of unknowingly having I'm not saying it's not a selection of word, it's how we perceive in our mind. That's how our mind is trained, and we call it also many of our conversation in DNI is unconscious biases which our cognitive ability has. And in your second part of the question, could you just the first part of the question, can you just repeat?
That people, when they are getting into any organization, when they're coming from diverse segments, they feel apprehensive of accepting, coming into the system, and they have a fear that the peers at work will not be, embracing them.
Correct. So I'm just connecting the part which you said from the groups, which I forgot the first part of the question.
Yeah.
I'll make it very simple for our larger audience to understand without complicating with heavy words. We as a humans have a tendency of seeing the conventional genders conventional human people around us, or a particular structure people in our or a particular bracket of people who are not so-called called the marginal part of the society, who are seen more in and out in our ecosystem, let me put it. So when we don't know how to deal with them, there is a reservation, and that's natural.
Right.
That reservation is something which we have to learn to be okay to be around. Ask the question correctly. Narrative matters the most in DNI and in diversity in large. When you are in a different country, for example, you might, if you're a vegetarian, you might die starving if you're not asked where the vegetarian food is, if you're a non-vegetarian. So the questions matters. You might be the marginal part of that country that time, for your particular habits or culture or something. It's like a geographical diversity. So it is your job to ask the question. And the beauty about, I always say about diversity, being a marginal part of society, you might not know how to deal with them, but they know how to deal with you. So it
Absolutely.
capitalizes on it.
Absolutely.
Ask the right
100%.
questions.
So can I just add one more thing to this particular part? So when we are talking about sensitization at workplaces these days, a lot of things are happening. So I always I advocate one thing, as you have rightly put across, that we being coming from a marginalized thing, or who are not who are somewhat different from
Correct.
the general course. So at that point of time, when you have a majority and when you have a minority, so at the when how does the sensitization of majority is to be done, and adaptability into the majority from the minority also plays an important role. So the people who are coming from say for example the PWDs who are coming in, so how do we train them that, see, there'll be people who will not be that good and not fair to the things. So but it is important that we deal with those situations, because we cannot always crib on the things, okay, this is not happening, and otherwise it becomes very difficult when a person goes into a depressive mode. So what is your take on that, and how does a person enable himself?
Thank you again for your question. I might give you a slightly longer answer,
Please
so
do,
bear
please.
with me. Now, when you say even I just said it a few minutes back, but let me put it in a very a thought for a kind of food kind of thing. When you say the conventional set of people in the society, the traditional workforce, even we today call it workplace, the
Yes.
most accepted workforce. But if you look globally, the marginal part of the society, the not the conventional part of the society, but if you look at the larger percentage, it could be LGBTQ, it could be veterans, it could be different people coming from different continent diversity, and could be especially able people from different abilities. If you look at the larger part of the marginal part of society, actually makes the majority part of the society as a marginal.
Right.
If
In
you
one way or the other, everyone is margin.
if you club in all the marginal part of the society, they might make the majority part as marginal.
Okay. Absolutely.
So if
Yes.
you look from the different lens,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so let me again put it in a more simpler word and try to answer in a limited words. Firstly, we are already dealing with, a lot of people are dealing with it, but the word here is more required in this 2023 or going forward, is how we correctly deal with it. The word is correctly deal with it. And when I say something like that, they might not be also many times correct, which we are not even correct in our. We are humans. We have some human things, which is could be biases, error, or something. It's okay. We also do with the normal people dealing.
True. Absolutely.
So it is okay, but restraining yourself totally and not being a part of these kind of workshops, or just learning and not understanding correctly something. But otherwise, I'll tell you one more incident. Sometimes sensitization workshop gives me a goosebumps, because I had some bad experience about a sensitization workshop, where a particular sensitization workshop, I'll not name the year or organization. They, in a right, of course, everybody has a right intention. They did a workshop, and it backfired because normally people used to do a workshop like blindfold your managers, tell them to move around the wheelchair in the lift and the lobby and everything, and try to make them understand how challenging it could be, give them that feel for a minute or hour or something. But in that one of the instances, somebody was blindfolded. He was reluctant, and unfortunately, he got a panic attack. So many of the organization had to understand conventional ways of sensitizations will not work. You have to understand whom are you giving, what kind of business DNA, and what is the legitimacy of understanding what kind of gender ability are you trying to get inside in, even in the equal employment opportunity or larger part of the society. You have to understand the dynamics rather than just putting like a Lego block on a block which doesn't match.
Right. Right. So, okay, then, while browsing through your profile and the work that you have done, you have enabled a lot of people through trainings, and you have been instrumental in placing around 5,000 plus people with disability into the system. Now, there is one thing that intentions are always right, but these days there are a number of organizations who are openly admitting that they are not prepared to absorb people with the disability into the system, and the reasons are, genuine. That organizations are not ready in terms of accessibility and the infrastructures aren't in place. So my question is that what sort of accessibility and infrastructure, the bare minimum infrastructure that they should maintain and how they should scale it up. So if you can just guide us through on that so that people can take cognizance of it.
Right. I'll just try to correct you. The 5,000 which you read, when I wrote that, it was not for disabled. It was just my journey person. But today, when I look back, my recent 5.5 year journey as a DNI enabler to subject matter expert, is more than 5,000 right now. That time when I wrote was something else as a part of my profile. It was a generic way. Answer to your question, I'll give you an example. What is right and what is bare minimum. I start with the bare minimum part of it, and I tell you how the society accepts in large as a accommodation infrastructure. Then it goes out in your town planning (TP) or DP development plans. Okay, I'll give a very short but a small connecting right story which will make you know. So I'm sure I believe you're from right now Delhi NCR area or something.
Yes, yes,
They were the huge lands were used for the great malls when they came into existence in India,
absolutely.
right? If you see the mall infrastructure by and large, the first thing started because they started capturing the young couple audience. Because in the summers or in cold winters, they could carry their children in the pram, and ladies can get out of the house, the man after working, and they eat their dinner and go back. And with the washroom, they started placing something called diaper stands. It started becoming even from Bangalore to Chennai to Pune to Mumbai, the tier one cities, tier two cities. They started making those babysitting rooms, changing rooms to even breastfeeding mothers. Uh, this started becoming a culture for any upcoming mall to have those kind of infrastructure
Things.
in place.
Absolutely.
This is my first telling you. Then the wheelchair washroom started. The wheelchair washrooms is a different story. Nowadays they are used majority because people don't use it frequently. They are used as a storeroom by the sweepers. That's a different story altogether. But what I'm trying to tell you is that on the lighter note is that when there is a consumption, there's a need, there's a demand.
Right.
The ROI matters. When
Absolutely.
we talk about it as a consumer and demand, the demand is out there in a
Right.
talent pool of diversity, all types of gender, veteran, and even disability. There's a huge talent pool which not even being thankfully has been echoed correctly. DNI practices, a lot of Fortune 500, 100 companies, many multinationals are talking about it. I'm happy to learn, but still now we need to echo it correctly. It's echoing it, but it has a few loopholes in it to it, and it happens. Nothing wrong about it. Why I'm sharing with you my point is very simple. That we as a human have, from a stone age to modern marvels, we have adopted something on the point of consumption.
Right.
We have put it in our system process for firefighting units, whatever, some incidents, and made us realize what is the importance of it. When you start developing the whole ecosystem correctly, from inside the building to TP, town planning, to DP, there will be a lot of people who will be coming and putting their revenue and adding a part to the GDP if they're consuming it correctly and they're earning out of it.
Absolutely.
So there's no bare minimum, first thing. It is an ongoing process. And plus, even if you fail, I always say this, I like to end my answer with this. You cannot boil the ocean over it. You cannot accommodate everybody to that extent. It cannot be customized to a larger way. But basic, as per the 21 types of disability which we recognize in India, the LGBTQ, the basic gender neutral washrooms, these are the basic mandate should be there.
So, with accessibility, one part gets covered, that gradually, and as you rightly said, that once the need is there, the consumption will increase and the accessibility and the infrastructures will gradually grow. It cannot grow just overnight.
Overnight, yeah.
Yeah.
But here, just adding to it, we have to little bit increase the consumption people usage first, rather than they coming out. They will not be able to come out till there is be a usage, a reason accommodation would be in place for them. Here we have to turn the wheel a little bit before the time.
The second thing I would just add to it, other than the accessibility at workplaces, the accessibility to workplaces has also to be looked at when you're talking about the transportation and making people reach the organizations and work from there. So these days the hybrid culture has come in, so that is pretty doable. But in certain areas where people are getting engaged in physical work, say for example at factories and all, so there organizations can also look at infrastructure and support where mobility is also can be considered as one of the parts. So what is your take on that?
Totally in agreement. And thank you. This is very vital. I should have myself shared with you a couple of minutes back. So I'll answer the few things like a transit places. The transit places, as we call airports, bus stands, railway stations, metro stations. Even in many airports, you see a wheelchair washroom. It's not because they want they are creating international standards, or they are saying it's not. It's basically need. They are people who are elderly people. They cannot access the washroom in the thin alleys. Or that's the reason they started making
Right.
washrooms for the boarding the flight and after boarding. Again, is a demand and supply. Then it was exercised by PWD, person with disability, or the gender neutral people. Now there has to be something, a step up game. I say it many times, that there has to be a something like a places within the transit where there is a recreation rooms, not only for specially able or transgender, for elderly
Right.
people, for advanced pregnant women. So your question is very right, but you need from the office, not from work to office, office to back. In TP and DP, now in smart city modules, even going to tier 2 cities, we need to have a recreation rooms for all types of people, shape and sizes, and there where the UD adds a lot of value, initial design.
That's perfect. Now apart from all these things, let's move to a larger question that we need to address, is integration of the educational and academic system and organizations L&D programs, where
Right.
that can help in creating better opportunities and better aligned systems in the organizations and for the people who are coming into the system, which makes system more accommodating and inclusive for people with disability, and at the same time people who are coming from these education institutions are already aligned with the systems in at, at the workplace and can serve better as well as get better opportunities. So what is your suggestion for the L&D departments, maybe the HRs and the education institutions?
Firstly, very simple. Yes, they can create a lot of value in this L&D OD. They can create a lot of value. But how they do is something which is they have to be a little bit mindful. I'll put it. If they start crafting the sensitization workshop or PPTs will not work. They have to embed in such a way those things that they has to put it in an initial level when the freshers are joining them in a kind of induction or somebody in any level. Just add a particular paragraph. Hey, we are a company. We take pride in our diversity, inclusion. You will find a lot of our allies who will help your diversity champion. Adding to it where they can go and get educate themselves. They have a peer or an employee or somebody subordinate with them. Point one. Point two, education system right now is should have a curriculum, at least in a senior management level, at which I think it should be a mandate like we had way back in, there was something called civic science. Some subjects simply should be
Yes.
there which tickles your curiosity to understand. People who are sensitive, they will like to understand more. They like to understand, maybe make their profession in making people understand more in this space. I give you for example, at least in the larger interest of, I'll give you a small example. I believe you and me are maybe in the same age bracket. So you remember there was a time when we used to be a part of our school curricular activities, which used to go for visually impaired donation.
Yes.
लाइफ स्कूल का
Yes. 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 I
हम लोग
remember.
पार्टिसिपेट करते थे. So
We
participate
we used to go around places and collect some
center.
funds. Yes. I remember.
We were told to do it. There are many of the students who had very right questions to the teacher. Teacher didn't have the answer. And trust me, those children, when they went to some other neighborhood, when they crossed their neighborhood, or when they crossed the colonies or roads or their blocks, those children were remembered by the family. Hey, I saw this boy, he came for a blind school institution. That kind of connect human will be everlasting. And that kind of imprint, academics, L&D, OD people can leave on their employees and the society large if they correctly add to it.
This is a beautiful example that you shared with us, and with this, I would say that spoke about civics. I think it's one of the aspects that is touched upon in most of the junior schools, and if at all sensitization is a part from the initial days, it will create better human beings and better understanding of people, not only people with disability, but in general, it makes you a better human being when you understand. So, wonderful thing, and hope educational institutions take that up for all the students, and definitely it will make a larger change in the society.
Sure.
So, coming to the last and the closing question that we have, Ketanji, that you are an inspiration, for all of us, and you have led a life as a person with disability, and you have achieved laurels and made a great career. So, how has the journey been, and what would be your message to the young and budding people, your colleagues who are starting their career and might be having certain challenges in life? So, some word of motivation and suggestions that you could share with them.
I don't know about inspiring, but I understand when I see from people's lens. Maybe they are in torching towards the challenges, the conventional challenges. I am added with some other unconventional challenges. So it becomes an inspiration. I
And
understand.
we would like you to just open up and talk, because this is about you. So you can
Right.
take as much time as possible for this.
Okay. So thank you so much for that liberty. And so just repeating my words, I understand when people say about the challenges and adding to it unconventional challenges from the day-to-day challenge for conventional world people and conventional people in the world. Yes, I understand when they say, and I understand when they say as an inspiration. But for me, which always worked, which I like to spread, give the message to you guys. and I say on many other platforms and places. Keep it simple, because the complexity is not there where you're finding it. Complexity is where you're thinking it. The best of the solutions are coming from the most simplest thought process. And only think, the lens has to be different. The parameters will be different. In many places, I always say, when you're talking about DNI or LGBTQ, and even for veterans hiring or any kind of town planning, and keep those part of the marginal part of the society as one of your thought people in the in your meetings, or your lobbies, or your allies. Take their opinion. You might not be able to do everything in one go, but they can give you a solution which might not be there in your conventional books. So always ask those people. Ask, keep your narrative correct, keep your questions open, keep it simple. It will help you to solve the things in a lesser time, reach to a level where you are not burning yourself in the society to accommodate a lot of people, or the money to funds which you're trying to raise to solve that particular issue, to accommodate the marginal part of the society, or DNI as we normally say. Keep it is always simple. Is keep it simple. I give you an example before, because you gave me a liberty. I'm not in
Please,
nomination.
please, please,
I give this
please take
example
it.
many times. I give the examples many times, and this is where I mean keep it simple. I and I was when I had joined one of the organization as one of the DNI consultant. I remember there was a one person of my age nearly. I was in Pune, and this is before COVID, when it was okay, that you have a person next to you who's coughing, running nose. This is before COVID
Yes.
days. It was okay. He's just having a flu. I remember I was winding up my day for the Friday, and this person inquired. He was a very senior person in his field, and he came from Mumbai, and he heard that I'm working with so and so organization, which he's also working. He came to meet me, and I was winding up for my day for the Friday evening. So we're all like, okay, the week is over, done deal, this thing. He came and he told me, "Hey, I'm following you on LinkedIn, and it always inspires me, and I want to understand that this DNI, or especially able people, especially in that context, how is it possible that they do the things the way they do, and they do the minimum errors?" That was his main question. So I explained him, and I'll explain you and what I mean by simple. So there was a big round conference table, and before that I had ordered a coffee. There was a coffee and a laptop on my table, and my mobile. And in his side, he had called for warm water and a tea. So I asked him, what you see on the table, both sides. He said, your laptop, mobile, and coffee. And my side, water, warm water, and tea. I said, apart from the commodity difference, what you see? He said, no, I don't see anything different. Like, okay, let me explain to you. Your tea and water is on the edge. Mine is one hand inside. Because my mind is straight for a zero margin error. I don't have a luxury of it fast I can pick it up. This is a type of simplicity and accuracy which a DNI will get to your workplace,
Amazing.
because they don't have few luxuries. So thank you.
And
I hope I answered you.
it
The
is, it is one thing that, truly inspiring, and a beautiful example that you shared. Before closing, I'd just, you know, talk a little bit that we had over the discussion yesterday
right,
about the unconscious biases. It
right.
was, so if at all you can just add a little more to it, it'll add to the discussion today.
Yeah. So in the yesterday conversation, if you're addressing it, uh,
Yes.
I'm I'm also trying to in the process of creating something called a training modules or training patterns, or senior management especially. It's called cognitive unconscious biases. We
Right.
all certain amount of biases. It's a human thing. First, let's
Mhm.
accept. And when we say that, is so because we are all a product of our surrounding, our learnings, and we are product of something. And if the aging, we get wired around it, and
Right.
that's a huge thing.
Absolutely.
When you are learning any unconscious biases or talking about it, it's not that I want to know what kind of good, bad biases you have. No, my understanding is to convey on my sessions always has been, I want to be in deliberately is, hey, it's okay, I have biases. Can we talk about it in our comfort level? And when we do that, we realize it's very human thing. It needs to be embraced. I have to embrace my biases. Forget addressing it.
True.
When you start embracing it, we start know how to deal with it. When you know how to deal with it, we know how to amplify it correctly outside. And when we amplify it, the results will be seen in the society in large. I can tell you one 30-second example. I'm a person with locomotive disabled in a traditional way by the books. It's a genetic imperfecta. It's a genetic thing. At the time of the on the birth, I am having it. It's related to brittle bones. So my body has seen many fractures in my lifetime than possibly a normal human will experience or should experience ever. But today also being a DNI leader, if I see a visually impaired person coming, that doesn't mean he's fully impaired, partially impaired, 30%. If a fully grown person, male or female, enters in a particular room, which is a very tight spot area, and he's approaching towards me, even as a DNI expert, and my first cognitive bias is towards this, he should not come and hit me, and I might have multiple fractures. Even
Yes.
being a person who does this day and night out. So
That's
what
human.
you should learn to deal with it is how you address your fears. My fear is not getting physically hurt.
Absolutely.
Nothing can come over it. Forget the biases, conscious biases, labeling, forget that. So what I do, how to deal with it. I'll give my example. So I call out my name. Hey, this is Ketan on your right hand side, sitting on the wheelchair on a 30 degrees angle.
So dealing with the bias is the most important thing.
And your fears, how to deal with it.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
narrative always matters. If you don't ask it, again I'm saying, ask those people. The best thing about the marginal part of society, they know how to deal with the majority part of the society.
So this is wonderful talking to you, Ketanji, again. And it has always been a pleasure that whenever we speak over phone, but today we are doing it for everyone. It's been wonderful experience, and we wish that you create more and more leaders who can come up and talk and somehow try to erase a little biases as you spoke about. Thanks a lot for being with us and being on HR Voices. Thanks once again from BW.
Thank you for having me. Wish you and your business world and the people who will be listening us and happy new year and a prosperous new year. Thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Ketan.